All right, so let's take a look at a couple of questions from your guided practice 7B. First one I wanted to look at is the one dealing with the flood. And so we have this millennial flood, which is a flood so severe it only happens once every 1,000 years on average. And we want to figure out what's the probability that we will have a millennial flood sometime in the next decade. So key to this is recognizing that we're dealing with an at least once situation, right? And so what we want is the at least once rule. We're looking at, is this going to happen at least once in the next decade, right? We're going to maybe have this flood. We want the probability that it will happen. And so here's what the at least once rule tells us. It says that the probability that this event will happen at least once, the event A, in n trials. And so in our case, our event is a flood, right? So probability that we'll have this flood, and then you need to figure out how many trials are we working with. And so key to this, we're looking at the next decade. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you figure out. And then this probability is equal to 1 minus the probability that no events A happen, so no floods happen in n trials. What's that probability? And that is going to be equal to 1 minus the probability that we don't have a flood in one trial raised to n power. So however many trials we have, we raise it to that power. And so really that last one is the one you're going to be working with. And so you want to figure out what's your probability that you won't have a flood over one trial, and then how many trials are we working with? You raise it to that power right there. Hopefully that'll get you started. Let's take a look at the next question. This one is dealing with the probability of randomly meeting either a male or a sophomore at a ward activity. And it tells us at this activity we have 10 sophomore females, 5 sophomore males, 28 freshman females, and 18 freshman males. And so again, kind of key is in our wording on this question where it says this or, right? We're dealing with meeting either a male or a sophomore. And that tells us we want to use this either or probability where we have overlapping events, right? Because we could meet a male who is a sophomore, right? And it tells us there are some of those at this event, 5 sophomore males. And so we need to take that into account as we work with our probability. And so that's what this probability does. If we want the probability of A or B happening, we look at the probability of A happening, we meet a male. Now what's that probability? And then we add to that the probability of B happening, so we meet a sophomore, and subtract from that the probability where both A and B are happening, and so that's where we would meet a sophomore male. And that gives us that total probability. And so that's what you need to take into account, that overlapping area as you're working out this probability. All right, please let me know if you still have any questions or things that I can help you work through as far as these problems go.